You should have moved. You should have moved your homie out.
There you go. All right, you see a countdown there on your top right of your screen?
Yep.
So it's live. We're live. We're rolling. When it ends, at the end, it'll say big ended. So there's no music today, unfortunately. Like I said, I was telling Mr. Echoles, I'm not in the normal studio at the Remax World headquarters here, but I'm in a different office with a port. I need a port. So welcome to Manning the Grill, episode 16. Meet
16.
Mr. Yep. There's probably 52 of them, right? So I committed to a year of doing this after COVID and kind of planned it. I was like, I'm going to do 52 of these this year, 2021. We'll see what happens. So we're at 16 of 52. So about, 37 to go still. So I'm excited. So anyway, I got Mr. Paris Echoles here on the show. Sponsored by Dreamland Real Estate, your Remax Preferred. Forgot to get that in there, right? Because get that sponsorship in there. And like I was just telling you, man, we were, great to see you. Very happy to hear you got the job last year. My daughter Reese goes to Savannah Oaks Middle School. And I'm missing interaction with humans, period, especially what I do, right, for a living. But I really miss interaction with you. I mean, Paris Lynn, I've got a brother as a principal of my daughter's school. I didn't get a chance to meet him. Don't know where he came from. Normally it'd be a dad, and all I get to see is you in a mask telling me where to park. Get out, get daughter, go, get out. So first and foremost, introduce yourself. Where did you come from? Where did you go to school? How'd you get into education? Let me know.
Well, first, thanks for having me on here. It's not even just for the showpiece and the pub. For other folks, like you said, may be in the same boat as you. Like, who was my son or daughter's principal at Savannah Oaks, but also just uplifting the space to provide.
It's so weird too. You go by and you got this mask on, and all I see is your eyes. I'm like, and all I hear is what my daughter talks about. So we'll get into that later. Yeah, I didn't mean to
got you. I'm born and raised in Beloit, Wisconsin. The proud son of a niece, Echoles, Linda DeWine Brown. May his soul rest in peace. Went through, K-12 in Beloit. Graduated from Beloit and then found my way to UW-Madison. After my goddad, what I like to say, forced me and told me I was going to Madison once he found that I got in. At that point in time, I was still trying to go play ball or, play football somewhere. I would have went for the D3. Beloit College, He was like, you got into Madison? No, you going there. So graduated from Madison, spent the year in education. So before, a lot of folks don't know, you have to be a teacher or in education for at least 3 years before you get your administrative license and become an administrator. So I was a high school history teacher. Then I was a coordinator. Yep, high school history. Yep. Then I went to Kenosha for 3 years as the coordinator of equity and student and family engagement. After 3 years there, in 2015, I came to Madison, Wisconsin, where I was assistant principal at La Follette. And then I became the director of youth re-engagement from 2018 to 2020. And as you mentioned before, in 2020, during COVID, I was first interview in person, second one virtual for this role. And, God blessed me to have the opportunity to become the principal here at Savannah Oaks as we are, wrapping up our final quarter here of my first year in the district.
Right. So that's a great question. Like, so now, and I didn't know that. That was interesting. So your first interview was in person.
Yep.
Then COVID. And your second interview was virtual.
Yep. Zoom. Yep.
Well, you kind of knew you were coming into it. In my head, it was all, flowers and roses. And then you got here and you started and then COVID. But I forget we were already in the year because you got interviewed after 2021 then, right? Because she was there last year, right? Yep.
So I ended up, this process actually started, a little sooner than most would. So literally around like that March time, I was prepping for the interview and doing that. And then when I started, I was still wrapping up in Madison, trying to get acclimated here with folks in Verona at Savannah Oaks. And then July 1, by that time, we already knew school was going to be in some virtual format and was just planning from there.
So you took the job, you were offered the job and took it after COVID started. I didn't even catch that. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. So what's that transition like? I'm sure it was excitement, right? At this point in your career, this is a dream job, right? This is a major step up from everything you've been going and working for. What are your thoughts? You're like, and I say this with a little bit of background. My cousin, Matthew Johnson, is assistant principal at Hopkins Schools in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And I just saw him this week. We were up in Minneapolis for a hockey tournament, and I sat down with him and his wife. And I'm like, tell me about it. What was the deal? And you can go into it, right? But the dividers and how they track where kids go in pods, and the parking situations, and all that stuff. And this is my cousin's the kind of guy. So, for instance, he used to open the gym in the morning for Paige Beckers to come and shoot. That's where she went to high school, Hopkins. Paige Buckets out in at UConn.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Here, she's from Hopkins, Minnesota. He remembers her from 7th grade on, right? And so that's his life. That's what he loves, and it's a total departure. And he sat down and like, man, you can't believe what we had to go through, right? So, what was that like as an educator? With now you're leading into people. By the way,
so my work in Madison as I was wrapping up there, coming here, was in micro schools, right? So we was blessed to be in Madison in a community organization doing some work there with like a group of girls from Madison West, right? So I was already in a untraditional school format anyway, right?
Sure.
And tap into their brilliance and get them to where they need to be for graduation. So coming here, like no one would have known that, like, okay, my parents, when it's time to open up the doors finally for kids, you think about for us, that hybrid model was February 9th, right? You had, the stickers on the ground, some of the things you were saying, obviously, like lunchroom, very interesting space, like all the students' rows. I mean, that's where in rows, and like thinking about contact tracing, as your cousin was talking about, having to make sure you knew where everybody was at just in case somebody contracted COVID. And then it's like, okay, now that this, who was a close contact, who got to do all of that quarantining and stuff like that. So it's been different. It's been different, but trying to bring some of my energy and spirit to the space. One of the first things we did was like, okay, lunch, if we don't change it, it's going to be grown-ups staring at kids while kids are eating for the 15-minute window they got. So I DJ as well. So I, brought my DJ equipment in and just, get some school-friendly music and some instrumentals and some songs that, are popular in hip-hop, R&B right now. And, the students, obviously love that. And so much so when we don't have the kids are asking, like, where the music at? We don't get any music today. It's like, no, some kids want to read during lunch. So, just, trying to meet everybody's needs. But at the same time, for me, my mom has always told me, hey, live in the moment. Life is where it is right now. So trying not to spend too much time on, the differences and what was or what isn't, and trying to make the best of what we have, right? As you mentioned earlier, it's my first year as a principal. So my experience in terms of what it looks like from this role is this. Right. Right. I know what I know, and we roll with the punches.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear. So that was the other reason I wanted to we moved, still stayed in the district, but we moved from a different middle school, right? So where we lived previously was Savannah. The new house is in Badgers area or district or whatever. Mm-hmm. So the Reese is going to finish out there this year. We moved in November. And it was interesting because when I was a kid, and many people who went to high school with me who might listen to this, remember a gentleman named John Worth. He was my elementary school principal. Mm-hmm. And deep story. I didn't realize half of it until I was in my 30s when he passed away. Because he came to my, 40s. He was at my mom's 70th birthday party. And this was back in the generation, you might remember this generation back then, right? When the principal was there for 30 years. And he was there for 30 years. And his wife ran the cafeteria. She was the one lady. And she was there 35 years. And small town, she got cancer somewhere through there. So we watched him deal with her battle with cancer towards the end of his career, or I guess he was retired already. And anyway, great guy. Like I said, I saw him at my mom's 70th birthday party, and he got a new girlfriend. So dealt with the whole cancer, paid his last respects to Stana. A couple years later, he'd found a new girlfriend because he was kind of rough fighting that cancer with her. It was a tough battle for him, right? Very upbeat, just very nice man. And there's some great conversations he and my dad had later. I know my dad bought a paddle. This will show you how old this was. My dad brought him a paddle and said, "This is the one you can use with feedback."
Oh, he was over there. He cutting up.
Yeah, right. I was back then. But anyway, we had a thing in common, that principal and I, motorcycles. To the point, he was the elementary school principal. When I was 19, my first motorcycle that I bought off him. It was this old bike. And we were always close like that, just always kept in touch, saw each other a lot. I remember one of the questions my dad, we had a very white community went to school in. And my dad asked, what's it going to be like with two little black kids going to your school? Are you going to keep them safe? And this man point blank stepped up and said, yes, your kids will get a phenomenal education. They'll graduate great. Fast forward, that actually happened. My sister and I both went to college, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't know about that conversation until my dad was long gone. Another gentleman who was there for it told me about it. My dad never mentioned it to me, right? So always a good guy in theory. Now that I know this, always had his eye on us, right? I say that whole story to kind of say this. When Reese gets in the car, one of the things she always talks about with you is your shoes. Indoor shoes, outdoor shoes, right? And she has a pair of Air Force Ones. She's like, I can't get them dirty. Mr. Echoles will yell at me. Hey. I'm like, well, you better listen to it, brother, right? And then she was talking this great story about you guys playing volleyball. It's like, there isn't enough hands to keep all the balls out of the kids' hands at recess. And she was talking about, like, she was doing something and she didn't see it. Yeah, soccer. She kicked it. She's like right in your stomach. Yeah, laughing. So, anywho, tell me about your love of shoes, because it does get in the kids, and you can maybe tie it into that DJ thing too, because I kind of forgot about that. She mentions that she loves that you bring that upbeat pace to lunchroom, and the shoe thing is amazing. Indoor and outdoor shoes. I'm like,
oh man, I can't take credit for that. That's one of those, as she said, she can't get them dirty. When I was younger, my mom was the same way. We come from very humble beginnings, and didn't have a lot. And there was plenty of shoes back then. When Jordan was playing, I was obviously younger. So I'm a huge Jordan fanatic. So a lot of my peers are getting the shoes. I never could. And whenever my mom would go school shopping, I'd be like, can I just get a pair of shoes? And she'd be like, well, you're not going to get any clothes. You're not going to get it. I was like, just give me the shoes. So that'd be my one thing. And, she was like, you better not get them dirty. So cool. I'll take an old pair of shoes and wear rain and all of that. If it's, I have my other pair in my book bag and wear them to school, especially in middle school, and kept them clean that way. So just, some of those routines and good habits that I would say carried on. So that she actually it's funny. I know the exact pair that she's talking about, because I remember that was my first time wearing that pair here to the school. So she was in lunch and I came past and then had to, running outside. She seen me change the shoes. So yeah, I think I started collecting them and like on my own, like, having finances for it in college. So I've been collecting them now probably as old as Reese is, like 13 years now.
13 years, yeah. And that's a generational change. I remember mine were upon a pair of New Balance James Worthies. I'm a little older. I'm 47, so probably a little bit older than you. But my dad was like, absolutely not. $72. Think of it, $72. $100 for a pair of New Balance James Unworthies. And my mom got them for me. I remember she you better take care of these boys. You only wear these to basketball practice, right? That's what I want them for, basketball practice. Only wear them to basketball practice. I remember she had a bra that had a wire hanging out the side for like an extra month because she bought those sneakers without my dad's permission. She couldn't buy herself some stuff. So very similar situations, right? Like, I got to take care of these shoes because mom's doing without for these doggone things, right?
Oh, yes. And for me too, right? I mean, a couple of things, right? Just culturally, the way, Jordan changed the game with like fashion and shoes and like how they, transcended like hip hop culture. So for me, a very proud Black man who is aware of my culture and want to make sure that not only the babies that look like me and come from backgrounds like me understand the pride and the beauty of their culture. But, I'm in Savannah Oaks. Our school is predominantly a white school, white staff, and just really trying to figure out my best ways and all ways of showing up authentically Paris so they can see, who I am, but also for the kids to know, no matter who you are, what you have, what you do, what you look like, how you dress, right? Like you can still do like this role. So I had this past weekend was like Principal Appreciation Day or whatever, and some of the students were did some video and stuff, and one of them just talked about like, I see you in a sweater on a day, I see you in a suit in a day, a shirt and tie in a day, your Born Gifted gear, your tennis shoes on Fridays, like just even knowing that they're noticing that and just trying to change that stigma of, like you said, what does a principal look like, sound like, what does a principal do? Really trying to change the game in that way as much as I can.
You're doing a phenomenal job. Like I said, my daughter thinks very highly of you, which makes me feel in my heart. All right, so this DJ thing. How do you do this? Do you let them pick? Do you throw on some, Marvin Gaye or
It's a mix. You're right. We've played everything in here. You got some students that request Kids Bop, right? Like you got to say, oh my God, I hate Kids Bop. Why are you playing this? Play the regular song. We have played everything from disco for some staff. I'm trying to mix it up. I know staff members in the building. Typically got to get like Cool in the Gang celebration and rotation, especially on a Friday, enjoying it, celebrating the week. And then some of it too, a lot of instrumentals of the music I listen to, right? Like some of it may not be school appropriate. So, bring the beat in just on my, my own, vibe, energy, making sure it's on right as well. Like just trying to show the students again, right? Like you never know, you never know who's in front of you. You never know what their interests are. Check your implicit biases and like what you assume and think people have to be. And then what you find out is the same music I'm listening to, the kids listening to anyway. So,
isn't that crazy? You come on TikTok, I'm like, I know that song. Like,
I know that song, right? Like,
what are you talking about? All right, that's George Michael. What are you talking about? I know him.
I know, right? Remember when that came out?
Right. I remember the day. I remember I was wearing it. Right, Thriller. That's awesome. So Miles plays hockey, right? And one of the things I did years ago was start this playlist. And I remember some of the dudes would play it like it'd be, white dude stuff, Def Leppard for the whole game, same album, right? Or something heavy metal, right? Something grungy. So I started making a list that it started with the grandparents, because there were a lot of grandparents that would come to those games and they didn't feel it. So when I got in the box to do the clock, I'd play some grandparent music. And before you knew it, I started taking requests and, some grandpa songs from Motown or classic rock. Or R&B, and then a couple Elvis songs I got around, and next thing I got some James Brown in there, right? And anyway, long story short, and then the kids, I started asking the kids, if they make it to the state tournament, all right, you guys get to pick a list of 20 songs. I'll play your songs for your state game. The longer you win, the more I'll play, right? That kind of thing. And it's worked out really well. Just a little way to motivate them, right? Keep them in the moment a little bit. Long story short. 3 years later, the list is 732 songs. You literally have no idea, and it's Spotify because it's during the hockey game, right? So it's literally, you never know what you're going to hit when you swipe right. Elvis, Run DMC, Pantera, James Brown, Barry White. I got away with a Barry White song, right? I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about up in here, but y'all jamming out, right?
Right.
So the power of music. I love that music.
Connect. It's like sports for me too. Like music is sports. Like the connector. Regardless of race, religion, background, belief, ability, music, and sports. Bring us together in ways that the rest of the world and our society need to catch up to. I think I'm glad you brought that up. That request piece. Students request, especially on their birthdays, right? Telling students like, on your birthday, if it's a song or something you want to hear, let us know. Email us. So I had like last week a student birthday. They wanted some High School Musical. So.
It's actually, I like High School Musical.
Yeah.
It's funny. Even country music. Some people I was on an Uber this weekend. It's like, oh my God. Here's a funny story. Sidebar. In Minneapolis, when I went to see my cousin, I took an Uber and had my wife come pick me up later. And the Uber driver was a girl in Victoria, obviously Hispanic, because she was playing a reggaeton. And I didn't know who Bad Bunny was. On her radio, like, oh, he's a rap. Now I know who that dude is, right? I'm like, I wonder, who's Bad Bunny and how is he with Snoop? What's the connection? So, I was like, I got it. Boom, 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 boom. So it's playing great, but music's the great connector. So my last question, and again, thank you so much for your time as we wind it down here. I was going to ask it this way: what's the best thing about starting this job during COVID? ? What's the worst thing about starting this job during COVID? I'm gonna flip it a little bit. What have you found the most enjoyable part about this job during COVID? And what is the least enjoyable part about this job during COVID?
Most enjoyable, I would say, would be it's twofold. It's twofold for me, right? Because our year has been kind of like these multiple starting points, right? So,
Yeah.
I was blessed with, with the virtual start. I could spend a lot of time trying to get to know just the overall lay of the land of Savannah Oaks, and I was able to spend a lot of time building relationships with staff. Right, new place, new guy, new people, new energy, trying to figure out, all the different things that I needed to know and like who I needed to know. And as I tried to get to know every single staff member in the building. So
Right.
like COVID awarded an opportunity for me to start this job in a way that would not have happened in any other normal circumstances.
So,
So
like, specifically with your peers.
yeah, especially with my peers. And I would say, the other piece of that for me is that like with the students, like the way, again, another iteration, like we did the hybrid model, like the 2 on and 2 off. So even that iteration allowed me to like start, get to know students in smaller chunks. And I think that's been helpful for students in a smaller setting, not worried about as many students, being middle schoolers and their peers is a huge thing. So we've been able to like kind of build, some intimate relationships that way. I'm very much, I put my heart in this work. And I lead with love, which is potentially different from a lot of administrators. You get so much into the academics, so much into, the scores and tests and data and all of that, which is super important. Don't get me wrong. Of course, I wouldn't be in this job. I mean, the advancement of law, youth, it's important to be academically. However, what I'm realizing is that, some of our babies don't feel school. Some of our babies don't think school is them. So, I'm here trying to just bring some love in the air, bring positive energy. Thinking about Kobe, mama mentality, every day is a new day to start and be your best self. Like, how are we applying things like that to education? Which typically is just like all about like, what is your lesson? What is your lesson? What did you learn? What's the assessment? And then keep moving. So I've been enjoying like building that way with youth and like bringing different energy to school. When like a lot of our youth see school, that's just like, I gotta go. I gotta sitting here with these folks who don't know me, who don't like me, who don't care to get to know me, and actually like try to change the narrative of that.
Great
So
answer. Great answer.
I think you said, was the other part like what I have not enjoyed the most with COVID, or
Yeah, least favorable.
it's still some babies that ain't here. Just
Yeah.
some families are still virtual, and for obvious reasons, and with COVID being COVID and want to make sure they remain safe. We got family members who, have medical conditions that, that it's too much of a risk. And, as we think about trying to meet their needs and support them, as well as like come in and feel that energy, we've been trying to do a lot and reach out a lot, as much as we can from a virtual standpoint, but it's just different. When I'm able to when I have a desire to get to know every child and they're not like right in front of me, to also feel that energy. My mom told me a long time ago, our people are people who very much are emotionally brilliant, and like that energy and just feeling people and understanding where they're coming from an emotional space. I would love for students who are not here to feel that, so they can also know like, oh, my principal talks these different things, but he also shows up and exists in them as well.
Right. That's great to hear. Phenomenal answer. One of my things as a parent, one of the things I love about the Verona School District in general is that I do consider it relatively diversified. I'm not saying black when I say diversified. I mean just across the board diversified. One of my favorite things is the Asian immersion school. I think is in Savannah Oaks or Stony Prairie. It's in Stony Prairie, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Two-way immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's in Stony Prairie, right?
Yeah, we don't have it here. Yeah, we don't have it here.
Right. But next door, right? One of the things, because our neighbors was in that program. He was Asian descent kid, and I remember when we were going through the referendum, they were fighting for that program. I was kind of like, why? It's an amazing program to immerse your kids in. We have one of the best in the state. Not many people know that, right? No one knows that, right? We have great options in our district, and they are diverse, and they're only getting more and more diverse every day. Got a beautiful new high school. We're in a great district. As a realtor, I can't touch that question. I get that question a lot, right? Where is the best school district, or where is the middle class black neighborhoods? Okay, so in my head, and you won't have a bad school district within 1 hour of a state university. it's just impossible, right? You can say what you want. People can, income levels are what they are, et cetera, but you're not going to have a bad school district run by bad people. They're all good people, great educators like you, trying to bring the different energy, change it up. So I appreciate it. And thank you so much for doing what you do.
I appreciate it.
Last question. What's next? Like, what's the next, in the career ascension of Paris Echoles, what's next? And will be another, principal, director of education, superintendent, maybe? We just got a new one. Haven't met him yet either. I look forward to meeting him. Have you met him?
Yeah, Dr. Clarity, good brother, real good brother. You should.
Did you know him at Madison, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Good people. Look forward to meeting him as well. What's next for you down the road, man? And can we help?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really have an answer to that question. I know my path is to continue to try to, as I say, change the world, and, whatever that means, whether it be through the schools, through people, whatever that, is, like I said, I'm a God-fearing man. Spirituality is important to me. And I've been working heavily on my own self with just being present and trying to stay in the moment and realizing what's in front of me is just what's real. Anything in the past is worry. Anxiety comes from thinking about things that you can't control and what's next. So I'm just really trying to lean into where I'm at. But I do know that regardless of where I'm at, I'm going to be in the place where I'm trying to fight to make sure everybody has what they need, everybody get what they need, and most importantly, try to get folks to understand that, like, this world is yours. A lot of people try to tell you who you are, what you should be, what you should not do. And I'm all about just trying to give people the tools and the skills and the mindset to, like, dream big and just know that all things came from thoughts, and to lean into that. So that's a good question. It'd be interesting to see as time go on, Lord willing, and some years from now we come back to this video and be like, yeah, you didn't know then, like, look where you at now. Like, who knows?
Right. Exactly. Would love to go back to a video 5 years from now and see where you were.
Right. See what's going on. But at the end of the day, just like, the ancestors that came before me, the individuals who, Fred Hampton, all our, the Malcolm X's, the Martins, all the folks who've paved the way and, like, trying to make change and didn't stop and was unapologetic about it. I'm trying to get to a place where, somebody look at me, and depending on who you are, your perspective is like, we don't want to see him coming, but it's understand he coming and know that he trying to, be about the work of advocating for all people, especially people that look like me. Black folks are plight in this country, but since our existence has been what it's been, and I want to make sure that I am a part of the work of dismantling these systems that are keeping us, and thinking about I forgot the name of the author, but the book Caste, right? Like, looking at Black Americans as, like, the lowest folks in the caste system, and I'm here trying to dismantle and destroy that by any means necessary. And my means right now is schools, education, principalship. Like I said, who knows what's next?
Yeah, it's the best way to go. Like, we grew up in a system where education was, I don't want to say required, but it was assumed, right? Not an option. It was assumed. And you just went there. I know the benefit. My sister and I benefited from that just now, right? The more people we can get to assume they need to get educated, as opposed to trying to get them educated, that we're all way better off for that. So, well, listen, man, great answers. Thank you so much for your time. I know you got to get back to a staff meeting. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, I know my daughter and all our kids are in phenomenal hands at Savannah Oaks with you in charge. I'm so happy you got the job, and I look forward to actually meeting you in person, having a real conversation, and checking out.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you want to check out the food? You guys come. You guys swing by some parking lot on a Friday. I have them on.
Okay. How often? Because I only see them in the parking lot every now and then, and it's like I say, it's tough. That parking lot move, boy. You got to get going, boy. How often do you work on out in the lot? That's a great last question. How often do you work out in the parking lot doing the thing? Do you like those interactions? Normally, I feel like I should just park there and get out the car and say, "Hey, how you doing?" Even to other parents, right? But it's who's the assistant? Pat? No.
Pete.
Pete. No. Yeah. No. He's almost like a aircraft carrier launch. Like,
oh man, Pete, that's my guy, man. He be holding it down. He be holding it down, making sure things happen. The last thing we try to worry about, as you know, is to back up on Lacey Road. But
yes,
he doing a great job with that. He typically out front, and I'm typically in the mix of the building, try to make sure folks getting where they need to get to, make sure they get their breakfast in the morning if they want it. And then the most important part, though, too, like, again, reminding kids, like, man, we know you are happy to see each other. We know you, love each other, and your friends are here, But as scholars, we got to continue to remind you, right? It's still COVID, it's still a pandemic. You got to keep moving. So I'm usually in the mix
everywhere.
Like having
stop with the balls. Kickball, no. Stop. No. Dodgeball, no. Stop with the balls. I was reading the conversation yesterday. So
makes you tell Reese too that the ball that actually hit me in the stomach, I was fast enough to block it. And I asked her, I said, "Do you play soccer?" Because there was some power behind that ball. She said, "Yeah, I play soccer." I said, "I can tell."
Yep. She was giggling. So no, she loves you, man. She loves you. Keep on doing your thing.
Thank you, man. Hey, you keep doing your thing with this show, bringing awareness to folks, man, the community. I appreciate it.
I don't know why it's taking so long to stop. This is what's fun about the self-production part, right? It's still tapping